Well, the good folks at US Soccer doing their part to keep you entertained during these challenging times. And we certainly have something that classifies as fine footballing entertainment for you tonight. A rerun of a classic US Open Cup final from 1998. The Chicago Fire and the Columbus Crew contested that final. I'm joined by two members of that Chicago Fire, that legendary Chicago Fire team, Jesse Marsh and Frank Lopez. Gents, thanks so much for helping us set the scene ahead of this final rerun. Before we get to your memories of 1998, just fill us in on what's going on with you in the current craziness. Jesse, I'll start with you out there in Salzburg as the coach of Red Bull Salzburg. How have the last few weeks been for you?
Yeah, it's gotten a little bit better here in Austria. So we were sort of quarantined or spent a lot of time home starting about 7-8 weeks ago. And then 2 weeks ago, we started training again because things have been relatively quiet here. The people have responded to the rules of the government really well, and it's meant that the infections haven't increased as much lately. So we've gotten back to work, but only in small groups and with social distancing in training and in the locker room and all these kinds of things. But, we've been really happy to be back to work. And then, life quality here in Austria in general is great. The people are great. The landscape is amazing. So yeah, we're doing okay now. And my family back in the US and everybody's doing okay. So that's really good for us.
And Frank, for you in Chicago, you had literally just rejoined the coaching staff. With 2 games into a new season, and then this happened. So, what's your experience been like?
Yeah, I think I think we're a little bit behind where I think Jesse and most countries in Europe are right now. So, hopefully, in a couple of weeks, we can be in a position where Jesse's team in Austria is and starting at least to train either in from an individual basis or in small groups. So meanwhile, for us, it's as a new staff, I think we've used this time, just to kind of evaluate and look what we've done over the past 3 or 4 months and find ways where we can improve and be more effective when we do go back. And obviously, staying in touch with the players throughout the week and giving them their individualized kind of training programs and making sure that they're doing something so they maintain a little bit some kind of base of fitness. And then more than anything, it's just staying connected and making sure that they're doing well. A lot of guys are here without families and in a new environment. It's a new team for us. So we've done a good job just to stay in contact with the players and making sure they're doing well, making sure that if there's anything we need, we're here to help them, that their families are doing well. And, my family's doing well, which is always a good thing. In moments like this, health is the most important thing. And then obviously sometime in the near future, hopefully we can all get back and doing something that we all love doing.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to that future. But we've kept ourselves kind of going with some thoughts of the past and some great thoughts. And for you guys, I'm sure 1998 lives on strong in the memory. The first year of the Chicago Fire, who came in as an expansion team. Remember, MLS had started with just 8 teams, and then Chicago and Miami came in 1998. Take us back, if you will, both of you, to the start of that year, because you'd both been in MLS for the first 2 years with different teams and both became a part of the Chicago Fire through different means. Jesse, first of all, you went through the expansion draft, I believe, to move from DC. What were your expectations, of course, joining up with Bob Bradley again, but in general, what did you make of this new project that was coming online in Chicago?
Yeah, well, personally, I was really excited because I thought that Bob was going to be a really good head coach in MLS. I'd played for him in college and watched him closely as an assistant. It was also a chance for me to get closer to home. I'm from Racine, Wisconsin, which is probably about an hour and 15, 20 minutes from Chicago. And, I knew that Chicago was a soccer town. I just didn't know exactly how it was all going to come together with a new team and an expansion team. There's always a lot of unknowns, but pretty early in preseason, you could see that the team was going to be pretty good. We were excited about being in Chicago, playing at Soldier Field. We had good players. Bob was running good training sessions. I remember Frankie's first day. He came down and met us down in Guadalajara, Mexico, at Udahe, and I remember thinking right away, we've got a legend coming home to Chicago. So we were all really excited when Frankie was going to join. That was about halfway through preseason. So yeah, the group was pretty good. And we had these foreign guys, you know, we had Peter Novak, Lubos Kubik showed up, and not many of us knew who he was, but right away we were like, who is this guy? It was almost like Peter brought all of his buddies from Europe to come play with him. And they were, you know, it's like each guy was better than the next, Roman Kosetsky and Jerry Pobrozny. So yeah, we were excited. We had a good group.
And Frank, from your perspective, Jesse talked about you joined the team in Guadalajara. How was that move from, I mean, you had to make it back to Kansas City, didn't you? I mean, to Chicago, sorry.
Yeah, really nice words, kind words from Jesse. Thank you. No, but for me, obviously it was different emotions, you know, because it was an opportunity. I knew when, that move eventually happened that this would have been my, you know, kind of towards the end of my career. So it was an opportunity to go back and finish my career where it all started. So for me, it was obviously different emotions. You know, I was really grateful for that opportunity to have had to come back to the city where everything started for me, and to be able to play my last couple of years in front of my family, my hometown, but also to have soccer back in the city. But then Jesse's right. I mean, I joined the team late in Guadalajara. I really didn't know what to expect. I knew a lot of some of the foreign players that Bob had brought in. I knew some of the young guys that were there, players like Jesse that were in the league already. And, you know, but what I saw early on, first of all, look, I mean, it's different now, different kind of emotions looking back at it. But I think that Bob, first of all, was a great coach. I saw that really early on, his ability to run great training sessions, like Jesse said. But for me, you know, at that time, I've been through different coaches, and Bob did a really great job of just getting everybody involved and communicating. The players were special. I mean, the players that he brought in with Peter Novak and Lubos and Kosecki, Pobrozny, but more than anything for me was the young players. You know, players like Jesse that were in the league. And, you know, we used to, in the beginning, I know this was early on. I know Bob, you know, had Michael Bradley, but we always used to joke about that Jesse was his second son, you know. But you really learn, you know, we used to kid around. But then since years passed, you know, Jesse, for me, I know he's on the call and I don't want to say too much, but over the years that you really think about that, Jesse was such a great teammate, man. And, you know, and when I think back now, I said, if I had to start a team, Jesse for sure would be on my team because he's a winner. And he made sure that every day in training session, he tried to make everyone better around him. And at that time, you kind of took things maybe a little bit the wrong way, but now you realize now how great of a teammate he was. And then if you wanted to win, you wanted to make sure that Jesse was on your team. I can tell you that. But that's the kind of group we had.
Yeah, it was such a fascinating mix, as he said, all the older, more experienced, hugely experienced players with some gravitas of European pedigree. And as you say, a lot of younger and very keen American talent. Was there, Jesse, for you, was there a sort of aha moment where you thought, hang on a sec, this is really going to work. This is going to be something special? Because you'd been on DC United team who'd had a lot of success in the previous 2 years.
It was actually a home game. I think it was our 6th game of the year against DC United. So, yeah, I mean, Frankie touched on it a little bit, but we talked about some of the experienced players. The young players we had were Chris Armas, Ante Razov, Zach Thornton, Diego Gutierrez, Josh Wolf.
Yeah.
Right. So the balance between older and younger players was really interesting. And we learned so much from all these old guys, you know, Frankie and the whole European group. Against DC United we were 2-4 at the time. So we won our first 2 games, then we had lost 4 in a row. And the 5th game that we played was against DC. They came to town. They wound up beating us 3-1. We picked up an early red card. But we played with a man down against the 2-time defending champions, and at that time they were easily the best team in the league. We played incredibly well. We hung in there. They scored a late goal to make it 3-1, but down a man, we actually dominated the game. And at that point, we kind of felt like, you know, okay, we can be a team. We can play with the best. And after that, actually, we won 11 in a row. So, you know, that was a big game for us, you know, and always the feel of playing at home at Soldier Field in front of our fans in Chicago was always awesome, you know, and playing in the city, downtown. At kickoff, you could look up and see the skyline of Chicago, and you just felt like we were meant to be a big team in a big city. So, yeah, but early on, you could feel that. You could feel it coming together.
Yeah. We're here to talk about the Open Cup specifically. Before we get into that and the run, Frankie, your recollections of that first MLS season? Because, of course, it was the LA Galaxy were setting the pace, weren't they? They were setting all sorts of records, some of which still stand from that regular season. But then you guys found a way to win when it really counted.
We did. And I think Jesse talked about a really important part is the balance, which with any team, it's what every coach wants, but not so easy to find all the time. And I think Bob did a great job with finding the right balance within the team. And I can tell you what, I remember early on, I know Jesse points that season, I go back to the balance and Bob doing a really great job of making the right decisions, but making sure that everybody was involved and making sure that, everybody bought into what we were doing, and what the end result was going to be if we continued to work hard. And I remember in the first 5 games, I had a really good start. I had 5 goals. And then Bob comes and talks to me and says, Frank, I'm going to make a change. You've scored 5 goals in 5 games, but I think this is going to be better for the team long term. You still got to play an important part on the team, and then which everyone is. And that to me kind of sticks in mind, because look, it's not always easy because I'm a competitive person. But in the end, I really have tremendous respect because, Bob, sometimes it's finding the right pieces and putting the right balance on the team to really make it better. And once he made that move, I know Jesse talks about that game. That's a part of it. But I think making moves like that, keeping everyone involved. But I can tell you one thing. Jesse talks about the games. Some of our training sessions were harder than the games. And I can tell you what, the only thing Bob had to do was put Peter Novak on one side and Jesse on the other side, and then we would have the finals every day in training sessions. So that's what it was all about. Bob knew that it's all about the hard work. It's all about creating the right mentality within the group. We're all winners, but getting everybody focused in the same direction. But our training sessions, man, were harder than games at times.
Oh, they were. They were awesome. I mean, we had, and I forgot to mention CJ Brown, but it was just, you had a group of people that they hated to lose. And it's one thing to like to win. It's another thing to hate to lose. And we had that, it was incredible. And Frankie's absolutely right. I never played in training sessions that were more like a bloodbath than what it was like every day in Chicago.
Sounds awesome. It really does. It's been interesting doing some of these. It seems like every time we do an Open Cup final review show, we talk about the run that the team was on. And there was a point where it almost didn't happen for the team. So I want to take you back to your first game in the Open Cup run that year. Frankie, you scored the first and the last goal in the Chicago Fire's run that year. But the first goal, I'm not sure if you remember it, against the Chicago Stingers, who were, I think, in their final year of operation at that stage, a 3rd division team, a game you played at Forest View Park in Arlington Heights. Do you remember it? I
remember it clearly, and you're right. I mean, sometimes, you can always look in the end, we lift the trophy, we win the double, it's all great. But, a lot of those big moments start really from, small details and little things that have to occur in order to get that. And, the Open Cup is the oldest tournament here in this country. It's a prestigious tournament worldwide because of moments like that, where a team like the MLS, like the Fire, now we have to play a local team, the Stingers. That happens worldwide. And those games are tough. They're not easy. On the other side, they had this coach, Fred Hall, who was a competitive guy. He had these guys, ready to go. He wound them up seriously. I think that they were probably like sprinting before the game, and, it just comes down to this little details. It was an exciting game. It was a local game in the community, though. They're not easy, difficult, and it comes down to the, in the end, a couple plays that we make, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, Frank, you were 1-0 down until the 80th minute.
Yeah, let me ask Adrian, or let me ask Frank. Do you remember who was in goal, Frankie?
In our goal?
Yeah.
Holy cow, good question now, man. I'm getting
Scotty Sofel.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting. And we went down 1-0, and he made save after save after save, and we barely survived. And then that kept us in the game and allowed us to come back into the match. But yeah, it was.
I just remember late. You're right. We were down in the 85th. Scott Sokol, I think you're right. They had Joe Carver had like 2 or 3 breakaways. Remember in that game that I think that he made some big time saves, and then we get the 1-1. I equalize. I think I kind of acted like going back post. I sprinted a near post, and then there's a cross. I just barely I had my big curly hair, Jesse. I just got a little touch on it. I had some olive oil, so it was difficult for the goalkeeper to get a handle on the ball when he near him, and and then the rest is history. And I think Diego scored like a bicycle kick or something.
Yeah.
There's got to be some video of that still exists somewhere. I want to see that. Back in those days, guys, a lot of games were played on neutral grounds. Often the semifinals and finals. Actually, the next round for you was also on a neutral ground. It played at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas against San Jose, and that was another near miss, a near thing. Jesse, a game that went to penalties.
Yeah, so back then they used to sometimes they'd play multiple rounds in one city. So I think there were maybe 3 games in Dallas or maybe 2, and we played back to back to back, and it was hot. I mean, Dallas is always hot, but this game was like on the surface of the sun, right? and then we get to 90 minutes and it's still tied, and then we're in extra time, and I mean the game is moving so slow because no one has any energy left, and at the end. I remember we might have been down a man. I don't know if you have that or not, but we were just basically just holding the ball and everyone was standing still. Both teams, it was almost like an agreement. Let's just go to penalties. We're done. And then, we wind up surviving, by the hair of our chin in penalties in that one.
Yeah. And then that led Frankie to another neutral field game, this time down in Louisiana at Zephyr Field against the Dallas Burn, as they were at that time. Any recollections of that semifinal? You won 3-2 in normal time.
Listen, I only remember the ones I scored. I don't remember the ones that
Selective memory.
The lucky memory is right. No, to tell you the truth, there's some of these games that I really have to go back and do some research to really remember what happened. Probably Jesse knows a little bit.
I can tell you some things. We played on a baseball field, okay? And they one of those where they put down grass. And it's a very competitive game. And the winning goal, I think, was from Lubos. Yeah. And Lubos would a lot of times come forward, and he had this left foot where he could just nail a ball. But the goal for Dallas sat right behind the third base, where the third base was, and there was in the grass there was a little berm, that was maybe 6 inches high from people running around third base to go to home, and Lubos' shot hit the edge of that berm, and the goalkeeper went down. I think it was Mark Dodd, and it hit this little funky thing in the grass and popped over him, and we were like, okay, we won.
Everything was going our way. No.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
At that point, you just must have known your name was on the cup, and the initial plans were for the final to be played in Virginia at Hampton Roads. It was actually just a couple of weeks later, at the end of August. So talk us through what actually happened, because nature intervened and played its part in what ultimately transpired.
You remember this one, Frank? Go ahead.
I just remember that we were in the hotel. I could just see this dark clouds coming, and I was thinking, are we going to be able to even get out of this place alive? Everybody was boarding up windows and everything, and then we were waiting, and then I don't know, Jesse, I think they just finally said, okay, I don't think this game is going to happen. And I think that we
got out of town in the nick of time, right? Yeah. They held on, and we held on until the last minute, thinking, maybe the hurricane won't come. Maybe the hurricane won't come.
I mean, there was
finally we're waiting. We're all sitting in our rooms, and Frankie says, literally, you can look out the window and see a hurricane coming directly at you.
Dark, and what are we doing?
Finally, we get the call. We all get in the bus as fast as we can and get the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah.
That was Hurricane Bonnie, who played a part in proceedings. So actually, from that, I think you had to go play a league game in Kansas City. So then, actually, the Open Cup got put on ice as you made your run towards the end of the season, and of course into the MLS playoffs, famously resulting in going all the way and winning MLS Cup at the Rose Bowl. And I think at that point the decision had already been made by US Soccer that the Open Cup final was going to be A, delayed, and B, played at Soldier Field, which essentially gave you a home game against the Columbus Crew. I don't think Columbus were too happy with that decision, but they went along with it. And it was a game that was ultimately played about 5 days after MLS Cup. What do you remember of that, Jesse? Just the lead up to that final and some of the controversy.
I mean, you know, we went on an incredible like Cinderella run to win MLS Cup. And it was a euphoric feeling. You know, it was like climbing Mount Everest. Honestly, it was such a big. It took every ounce of energy from everyone involved, and we celebrated big. You know, we really enjoyed it in LA. When we got back to Chicago, we celebrated big. And then, you know, it was like we all forgot. And like, you know, like 2 days later, Bob said, "Now we have the Open Cup final." So we had to quickly reorganize ourselves and kind of get ourselves back on track, get back to good training, and then get ready for this game. And obviously we were very happy to play the game at home in Chicago.
Yeah. That had to be hard, Frankie, coming off that high and somehow getting yourselves up to go again.
Man, I don't know. I mean, there's some moments, you know, like I can go back, like when you score your first goal and when you sign your first contract, there's this feeling that it's hard to describe. And it's something that you miss as a player when you walk away, that feeling in the locker room for me as a group when we won, and then the joy and the ability to celebrate together with the guys that you love. And you had this goal from the beginning, and with Bob, they kept preaching every day. It's not a light switch. We got to work hard every day to get to the end point with that. And Jesse was absolutely right. It's just this Cinderella run, the story, and then we win, we celebrate, and then we go back, and Bob says, "Guys, we got to play the final." And, you know, Bob is always focused. He's probably on the bike right after the game, reviewing the game and just watching Columbus now, what we're going to do. And the only thing I could say, I mean, for me, when coming back, I had to make sure we go to Jedynka and make sure that the Polish guys are not there every night, so they're rested and they're ready to go for the final.
Yeah, I'll say one other thing, Adrian. It was really cool to come, you know, you don't have many chances after you win an MLS Cup to come back in front of your own fans.
Right.
And so when we came out for warm up, it was like a standing ovation. It was like the parade, you know? So a week later, the fans got a chance to really show the appreciation, and we got to celebrate it with them, you know, in warm up and everything. But then we quickly had to get ourselves ready to make sure that we were ready to win the double.
Yeah. Well, it ended up being the highest crowd at an Open Cup final since 1929. It had been a record that stood that long. So the crowd certainly came out at Soldier Field. What's your memory of the final itself against the Crew? Obviously, the Crew were a great team that year as well, especially up front. They had Stern John and Brian McBride. I know you started on the bench, Frankie, and we'll get to how you came off the bench in just a couple of minutes. But what's your recollection of sort of the first 90 minutes of the game?
Listen, for me personally, I had a great feeling waking up that morning. You know, I really had a great feeling that like the team was going to win and I was going to play some role into it. I mean, you might think like, you know, everyone would say that, but I really did, you know. So I was, you know, pulling for my team, you know, watching this game against a very good team, you know, being at home with our fans, and just waiting for my opportunity to, whether I could help the team being on the sidelines or if, you know, Bob called me to go in. So I was just waiting for that moment to go in, because I knew, I just had this feeling all day that I was going to be involved in the final, something, either score a goal. I had a feeling I was going to score and we're going to win. That's my feeling I had all day. So I was watching the game and anxiously waiting to get in.
Jesse, what's your recollection of the 90 minutes? 1-1, Pobrosny with a penalty just before the break, and then Stern John, the equalizer, just after it.
Yeah, I mean, so it was a very close game. It was also pretty heated, you know, back and forth, a lot of fouls. Yurtsia had scored a penalty right before half, and we went into halftime very confident. And you know, we were a team that year, when we scored first, we won almost every time.
Right.
And at home, we felt like, you know, now we take over the game. But Columbus, again, to be fair to them, they came out in the second half and they pushed the game and they pushed us hard and equalized at 1-1. And at 1-1, the game was back and forth and chances on both ends. And you know, once it went to overtime, we knew that, you know, it was going to require, again, us to dig deep and make sure that we could, you know, muster up something to do whatever it was going to take to find a way to get the win.
Yeah. And Frankie, extra time arrives. Bob Bradley brings. Do you remember who you came in for?
I don't. I was like this. Just give me the ball. I was
It was Richie Kochow you
okay.
came in for.
Richie.
So you come in, I think, in the right at the start of extra time, or 91st minute, and then talk us through what happened 8 minutes later.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, set piece, there's a corner for us. I remember, and Pobrozny goes to take it. And, I think just with any forward, I think it's always about anticipating, where at times the ball is going to be. And I saw the ball being played in, and I think we won the first header, and I was just quick to react to the rebound. I take one touch, and thank God it was a good touch. And then the second one was just in the back of the net. And then, I don't know, I was able to hop over some obstacles there, or some advertising banners that even to this day, I'm surprised that, like, my screws in my knee stay intact after I went over.
The fastest Frankie ever ran in his entire career.
Jesse said,
I couldn't catch him. I couldn't catch him.
It was just, look, it was really, for me to have had an opportunity to come in and have played a part in this great season. It was a dream come true, because I knew that was towards the end of my career, and to really have had an opportunity to finish the season like that with the group of guys that we were together from the beginning was, it's a special moment that I will never forget.
Yeah. Certainly had a spring in your step, leaping those advertising orders. It was wonderful to look at it again. So just in summing up, guys, a double for the Chicago Fire in their first year of existence. We love to, we do this around the footballing world. We love to compare different eras. And I just wonder what your thoughts are on that team and how you think the Chicago Fire of 1998 would do in the 2020 version of MLS. Jesse, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the game has changed a lot. I think there might be more tactical ways of doing things. Certainly the level of the overall play in MLS has grown a ton. But what really made that group special, and I think what would help it still hold up today and possibly even be better, is the group of personalities, starting with Bob and his staff, and then going to the, individual player by player. And like I said, how competitive they were, how much they were driven to succeed, how much they believed in the team concept. We built something really special. And it wasn't just 98. I mean, 98 was a really good team, but that for years continued in Chicago. And I think made that club really special, made that group of players really special. And I think it's even a reason why, Adrian, when you look around the league now today, there's so many of those people that are still involved as head coaches, as GMs, as sport directors, as assistant coaches, academy directors, whatever it may be. That group of players is still very prominent in the league and a big piece of what happens in American soccer today. So really proud, really, really proud. And the game, with the way Frankie scored for me, that was a perfect end to the season, right? Yeah. We called Frankie the mayor. He is Chicago, right? Like, we would go into the airport and Mayor Daley would stop and see Frankie, and like his whole entourage would come to say hello to Frankie. And we would joke that he would kiss the ring on Frankie's hand. But Frankie, he's a Chicago institution. I'm glad that he's back at part of the club and an assistant coach there, because I just think he means so much to the sport in Chicago.
And Frankie, final word with you, final thoughts on that 98 team, because your goal started a sort of love affair with the Chicago Fire in the Open Cup. First, went on to win it another 3 times in the next few years.
I don't think I can say anything else, because if I would, then I think Jesse summarized everything in a perfect way. The only thing I would say, for me, it was really an honor to have had an opportunity to finish my career and to finish in that style. In the end of the day, look, it's my opinion. I think that group, that team, and the players that we had, I don't want to compare with other eras. What we did was something really special. That's going to be, hopefully some other team can do it. But it took some excellent players, a lot of talented players that we had on the squad, a great leader in Bob that kept us focused, that kept us working every day. And I don't know, man. It's like a fairy tale that, and I'm very glad that I was part of the fairy tale. And I will forever be grateful and honored and blessed to have put that jersey on and to have played with those guys and to still call those guys friends, like a guy like Jesse. We were teammates, but to this day, I call him a friend. And it's been great to see, like Jesse said, a lot of those guys have gone different ways, have played big roles in soccer in this country. And the perfect example is a guy like Jesse. He's done an amazing job. And it's no surprise to me. It's no surprise to me and to any other of those teammates. He's got a great future. He's incredible what he's doing. And it's been a blessing for me to have been a part of that group and to still call those guys friends today.
Gentlemen, terrific stuff. Thanks ever so much. And great words about the future. I hope we all get back to doing what we love sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, sit back and enjoy from October the 30th, 1998, the Open Cup final, the Chicago Fire and the Columbus Crew.
Columbus and Chicago battle on the shores of Lake Michigan for the right to hoist the Dewar Cup. Welcome in, along with Ed Vicinic. I'm Brian Davis. The Dewar Cup is symbolic of the U.S. Open Cup Championship, Ed. That is the oldest, longest-running club tournament in this country.
Yeah, it is. In a nutshell, it's a single-elimination tournament. If you play soccer anywhere in the U.S., amateur or pro, you have a chance to be here tonight and play for the national championship.
Now, the Fire is coming off the MLS championship. Columbus was in the Eastern Conference Finals just a week ago. Ed, no letdowns here tonight.
Well, there's not going to be any letdowns for a couple of reasons. One is there's prize money involved, so you know these guys are going to be going after it. But the other thing is Columbus, for them, it's a redemption game. They were one win away from being an MLS Cup. They can knock off the champs tonight. Their lightning rod for goals is Stern John, celebrating his 22nd birthday tonight. He came into the league on fire, leading the league in goal scoring and point scoring.
Back in the middle of the field for Chicago, a guy who got dinged a little bit at the Rose Bowl on Sunday, but Peter Novak will be running the Chicago offense.
To me, Peter Novak epitomizes what a leader is about. This guy is a star, he's a stud, but he comes to work every day, works hard in training and in a game. He's a guy you build a team around.
Fire scored the 2 first-half goals on Sunday, then turned it over to this guy. Big Zach Thornton, the MLS goalkeeper of the year. He was a star in the second half in the MLS Cup Championship game. Zach Thornton will have to be on his toes tonight against the explosive Columbus Crew at Soldier Field. A foggy, misty night in Chicago, Illinois, as the Fire and the Crew get set to kick it off. This is a game that was postponed from the end of August by Hurricane Bonnie. They were originally to play in Virginia Beach, Virginia. The crowd here giving a big hand to Big Zach Thornton, the MLS goalkeeper of the year, who set a league record with a 1.17 goals against average, and playing in front of him for the team that is officially the visiting club tonight. Lubos Kubik, the MLS defender of the year. C.J. Brown and Francisco Caro anchoring the central defense. Chris Armas, Jesse Marsh, Richie Kotschow, fine-looking young rookie, back in the starting lineup tonight, along with Jerzy Podbrozny, Peter Novak, the playmaker, Josh Wolf, and Ante Razov up top for the Chicago Fire. For the home-standing Columbus Crew, Jurgen Sommer, who also made a mark this year with the best save percentage in MLS, 74% and change. Sommer, the former Indiana University standout. Thomas Dooley, Michael Clark, Ricardo Iribarren in the back, Rob Smith in the midfield. He'll have some heavy-duty responsibilities tonight. 3 guys back in the starting lineup: Barcia, Williams, and Mazonoff. Ansel Elcock also in the midfield for the Crew. John and Brian McBride, Chicago area guy, up top for Columbus tonight.
That strike force of McBride and John going to give the Fire some problems tonight, because their defense and their team as a whole picked up.
This will be the last match for the man in the middle, Arturo Angeles. Michael Kennedy and Alberto Echeverria are his assistants tonight. Ted Cavaccio is the 4th official, and we are underway in the final of the U.S. Open Cup. Razov off the head. The return pass from Kotschow goes awry. Throw in for the Crew, which reached the Open Cup final. First of all, defeating their A-League affiliate Rochester in the round of 16. Miami of MLS, the Fusion in the quarterfinals, and then they defeated the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars, the team they also eliminated in the first round of the MLS playoffs. That in the semifinal match, Chicago's road included a 3-1 victory over their D3 team, the Chicago Stingers, and then a quarterfinal victory by penalty kick over the San Jose Clash, and then a 3-2 victory, a hard-fought game in New Orleans against the Dallas Burn, the defending Open Cup champion.
I can tell you one thing right from the start, these players are going to be changing their boots at halftime. Guys are slipping all over the place on a very slick field with this mist coming down.
The weather in Chicago was supposed to have cleared today, but it did not, and the tarp was on the field until just a couple of hours before kickoff, and the field indeed slick. They rolled it down, but that hasn't helped. Thomas Dooley challenging Razov in the corner. It's going to go the other way.
Well, here we're going to see how that develops. To me, that's one of the things that's going to decide this game is how the Crew defense can handle Chicago's front runners. Razov and Wolf, both of these guys have good speed. Wolf a little faster than Ante is, but the Crew defense, while they're solid, they're not as fast as those two guys, and we'll see how that shakes out, especially on a slick field like this.
Robert Varcija is challenged to the near side by Razov through Clark. He gets around Lubos Kubik. Now Kachow chases into the corner, and that'll be a throw-in deep for the Crew.
Michael Clark, the all-time leader in games played in a Columbus uniform. He is a workhorse in the back.
John double-teamed inside the area, stripped, and here comes Chris Armas on the counterattack. Armas, one of several MLS All-Stars on Bob Bradley's roster, but he is tackled off the ball as Brian McBride comes back to play a little defense.
I don't know what the crowd's going to be here tonight, but maybe 90% will be cheering for Brian McBride. That's an overstatement, but he's from the area, and I know he said his ma had sold over 200 tickets already to this game.
C.J. Brown gets called for the foul, knocking Stern John down. John, 26 goals, 56 points, 1 goal and 1 point each off of Roy Lassiter's MLS records. Clark, a member of the last non-MLS team to win the U.S. Open Cup, the Richmond Kickers in 1995. The 1-2 from Varcija, laid off by Brian Mazanoff. Back from a knee injury, John takes a look top of the D. Novak comes to help. He gets the tackle, but Kubik loses control. Francis O'Caro, steadying influence in the central defense. Long ball to Jerzy Podbrozny. Podbrozny sizes up Ricardo Iribarren. Ante Razov now 20 yards off. Varcija with the tackle.
Great work backtracking by Varcija. I don't know if anybody let Ante know that he had trouble coming from behind, but from his midfield spot, it was Varcija coming and just picking his pocket.
Varcija originally signed by the Crew as a discovery player, and that was indeed a great discovery for the organization. Now the turnover, Podbrozny inside to Wolf. He fires and goes wide to the right side, looking for the back post, and he just mishit it.
Well, there's the first big chance of the game, and it came from a giveaway and a good tackle just outside the Columbus penalty area. There's where it developed. Podbrozny on a perfect ball for Wolf. He sized it up, tried to go far post. Didn't miss by much.
Josh Wolf, the Project 40 talent out of the University of South Carolina, 8 goals and 3 assists in MLS action for the Project 40 squad. 12 goals and 25 points to lead that group. He is awaiting assignment now to a winter conditioning assignment with a team in Europe. As part of the Project 40 plan and the development of the younger players on this side of the ocean, they're going to assign guys to clubs like Bayer Leverkusen. A couple of Columbus players spent part of the winter last year in the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen.
Ty Daly and Michael Clark training there, both former teammates at Indiana University, and they spent about 3 weeks over there, and a great experience to play at a higher pace, higher skill level. Sharpens you up.
Lubos Kubik, the MLS Defender of the Year. And this guy, probably the undersung hero on the Chicago side. 1 touch from Kachow, the rookie from George Mason University. Mazanoff challenges Wolf, who continues the play. Gets around Varcija. The cross is intercepted at about 8 yards out by Ricardo Iribarren. Iribarren missed the final game of the Eastern Conference Finals. The foul called on Razov. Iribarren picked up yellow card points and had to miss the final game of the DC United series, which was won handily by United after the Crew had pulled a surprise the previous Sunday at Ohio Stadium.
They were just one win away from going, and this matchup you're seeing tonight could have been a matchup you saw in Pasadena on the 25th, but DC was representing the Eastern Conference. Like I said, Columbus, the Crew has something to prove here. They can knock off the champs, who they are fitting champions.
Razov from Podbrozhny. Ante Razov, 10 goals, 9 assists in the MLS regular season. Had trouble finishing. Bob Bradley, his head coach, says, you know, I'd rather have a guy who's getting the chances and having trouble finishing than a guy who's not getting any chances at all.
You talk to any coach or any forward, anybody plays soccer, especially the forwards, and you know, they're going to be telling you when I'm not getting chances, that's when I'm in the dumps. If I'm getting chances, I'll put it away. It's an obvious thing. The more you go at the goal and get the chances, the more you're going to score.
U.S. Soccer would like to thank Chevrolet and all of the other U.S. Soccer sponsors for bringing you this game commercial-free. Podbrozhny marked by Ansel Elcock, lays off to Kubik. Elcock goes and catches him, but falls down. Kubik gains more space, lays it off to the near side. Podbrozhny is tackled, and a great play along the goal line by Thomas Dooley.
What a veteran play, and there we see Kubik limping. That's something we haven't talked about. The Chicago Fire banged up big. Kubik with a left shin contusion. Novak has a left quad bruise, and Francis Zuccaro is playing with a bad shoulder. Their key players are going to have to gut it out tonight because their bench is short, and Kubik is now in the center circle feeling that shin. That is a tough injury.
Dooley won the Fair Play Award in 1998 in MLS. What a career he has had. Spent 10 seasons in the Bundesliga. Came to Columbus. He plans to retire and go into coaching, and he will remain in the United States. Born to an American serviceman, picked up his German citizenship at the age of 9, but then in 1992 got his U.S. passport, and he has become a mainstay on the U.S. national side. Jesse Marsch, the only man to own 3 MLS championship rings. The first 2 seasons as a reserve for DC United. Bob Bradley picked him up in the expansion draft, and Marsch strong in the middle of the field. Now Dooley picked up by Rob Smith, who will spend a lot of time tonight with Peter Novak. On the far side of the field, Elcock. Flag was up.
Well, that was really the first chance in a while that Columbus has had the opportunity to possess the ball. Chicago has had possession pretty much for the first 8 minutes of this game, and the Crew get it, and they launch a long one that skips on past Stern John. Right now in the early going, John and McBride feeling a little bit of frustration, and the Crew not a lot of chances to touch the ball.
Elcock actually lost that ball on the wrong side of the touchline, so the throw in for the Fire, who during the regular season in MLS, 20 victories, 12 losses, one of only 3 teams. Now Razov has a chance on the far side. Dooley picks him up inside the area. He dances. Dooley falls. Razov, left foot, and the save is made by Stummer.
Well, that's one of the reasons that Ante Razov is in the lineup. He makes such good, smart, intelligent runs. He led the Fire in scoring this year, and Summer had to come up big. Strong left foot for Ante Razov.
Peter Novak will put it into play out of the corner. The first corner kick of the night for the Fire. He lofts it to the back post. He was looking for Jesse Marsch, but the man in the red shoes, Dooley, says no. Armas lays it back to his defense, and O'Carroll, and then C.J. Brown, who's one of several men in this match tonight that has been called to San Jose next week for a friendly that will be Bruce Arena's first as head coach of the U.S. national team. Razov intercepted by Andy Williams. Williams made a big impact, played for the Reggae Boys, the Jamaican national team at World Cup '98. In 13 games with the crew in the regular season, a goal and 12 assists in just 13 games, but he got into Tom Fitzgerald's doghouse. Fitzgerald says, we wanted Andy to understand that this is about the Columbus Crew and not about Andy Williams. And so he sat him for a little while. He's back in the lineup tonight.
I think that's one of the keys tonight's game, too, is to decide which Williams will show up. And I think, if anything, Andy being only 21 years old, he should take a page and take a real hard look at what Peter Novak does. Novak is a star, and he works hard all the time. I think that Andy doesn't put in what he needs to in training because he's such a gifted soccer player. Great skills, great pace to his game. He needs to understand this is an everyday thing.
Williams is fouled by Novak. Iribarren as Angeles gets things organized down toward the Chicago goal. Ricardo Iribarren will put it into play for Columbus at midfield. Andy Williams, a two-time All-American out of the University of Rhode Island.
See, this is what the crew needs to do a bit, is try and keep possession, make the Fire chase a bit, but a ball played to Varzia, too hot for him to handle.
Now Thornton doesn't get much into it. Mazonoff takes a look inside. He's got two guys inside the area, and now the shot and the save by Thornton. Zach Thornton comes up big. The ball ticketed for the upper 90 on the near side. Brian Mazonoff got all of that.
Well, we didn't see the entry pass that Mazonoff made into McBride, but that was slick. He made a fake with his shoulder, slid it in with the outside of his right foot, and Brian couldn't control the pass, but Mazonoff followed it up and labeled it. There's Robert Varzia, and the player hurt for the Chicago Fire is Lubos Kubik.
Kubik is down and now getting some medical attention right at the 18-yard line.
He's got the knock that happened in the MLS Cup final on his left shin, and that is a tender spot anytime it gets touched. Now watch this here. They're going to get the ball over. Watch the move that Mazonoff makes to slip it into McBride. Little fake, stop the ball. Now slip it in. There you go. I think that was intended to be a give and go to start, but one of the Fire defenders got a piece of it. Great piece of soccer there from two national team players that will be in San Jose next Friday night.
Well, this is exactly what Bob Bradley and Chicago did not want, because they have no defenders on the bench. Josh Keller, a midfielder, acquired in the latter part of the season from Tampa Bay for Jorge Salcedo. Keller, the UCLA product, comes on, but Keller's a midfielder.
Well, here's probably what's going to happen is O'Carroll will probably move back to sweeper. If Keller is not a marking back, they'll drop somebody in from the midfield to mark.
Varzia curves it, and Podrozny is nearly stripped, but he retains possession. Nice tackle made on the play by Mike Clark. C.J. Brown gathers it and banks it to the middle of the field, where Josh Wolf is outnumbered 5-1 by members of the hardest working team in America. Here's Williams looking for McBride. C.J. Brown to the air, the bicycle, and over the bar.
Well, that's one of the beauties of Brian McBride. Such an athlete, yet so skillful soccer-wise. He will try those anytime, anywhere. You saw the goal of the year in our tees. Watch this again. McBride drifts up in the air. Upside down we go. What an effort from Brian McBride. One more time, this is what Zach Thornton is looking at. I don't know, it was about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more. I saw Brian McBride score a bicycle kick here at Soldier Field as a member of a USB team. One of the most incredible goals I've ever seen in my life.
Now Varzia with a chance down the near side. Kochow comes to meet the cross, is knocked out by Keller, and then Kochow can't control. That'll be another corner kick for the Crew.
Well, that's a smart ball by Varzia. When he's coming down with that pace, just a low-driven ball that's going to skip around in the mix and maybe bang off of a defender's leg.
Now the low cross, and the header attempt by McBride goes awry to the right side. But here's the situation with Chicago. Diego Gutierrez, who is a guy who picks up some defensive midfield responsibilities, is out because of a red card suspension. He picked up a card in the U.S. Open Cup semifinal. On top of that, Tom Sohn, who was traded here from Dallas during the MLS season, is not eligible because he played a cup game for the Burn. Andrew Lewis out after surgery. So that leaves the Fire very thin in the back.
Well, they're thin from top to bottom. They don't have a lot of guys, and the guys that are playing are banged up.
Now Podbrozny is stripped.
Right now, the way it looks like the Fire is lining up, it looks like Keller might be in a sweeper spot with that guy right there, O'Carroll remaining in his marking back position, but we haven't seen enough text to see if that's the way it's going to develop.
O'Carroll was the Defender of the Year in New England for a couple of seasons, where in fact he played sweeper, made the adjustment to central defense this year for Keller though. And here come the Crew on the counter as Smith strips Peter Novak, and now C.J. Brown gets in the way.
Well, take your hat off to Robert Varzia, because he has made some scrambling, backtracking runs on the recovery and made the tackle for the Crew.
Now down goes Clark, and the foul is called on Novak.
Well, there was a chance for Novak to get in a little bit on Rob Smith, because number 16 is going to be Peter Novak's shadow all game long until he gets tired, and then probably Todd Yeagley. So a chance for Novak to get a little nick in there, and normally he's on the other side of it.
Now an opportunity, and once again Smith is sent to the turf, and so a restart for the Crew from about 25 yards out.
Crew is looking for a yellow card, and they're going to get it against Josh Keller. It's going to come in the 17th minute. Keller coming in from what Angeles says was behind, and Smith was on his way to go. This is a dangerous situation here for the Fire, and a chance for the Crew. Varzia, known as Free Kick Bobby, along with it appears Andy Williams, who can do some magical things with the ball and on a slick field. It's going to be Varzia, I think.
He lays into it and sends it over everything. So a goal kick for Chicago, but the Crew bringing a little bit of pressure, and the Fire finding itself trying to reorganize after the loss of Kubik to the injury in the 13th minute.
Keller's only 23 years old. He's been put in a very important spot with a lot of responsibility for Bob Bradley and the Fire. And he will be in central defense.
Now Wolf challenged by Ibarra. Dooley knocks it away. That was Rozov, and now Wolf chasing. McBride. Foul is called again on the Fire. Dooley with the restart. Mike Clark down the near side looking for a combination with Varzia. Banged off of Clark by Keller. Smith tried to flick it back to the center of the field. Podbrozny. Novak, nice sliding move by Smith. Novak gets up asking Angeles what was that, and indeed he does get the call.
I think he was looking for a card too on Smith. Smith came in hard. These are nights that you just love to play soccer with. A mist, slick field. It's a lot of fun out there, and slide around, but the tackles are still vicious.
We understand from the Chicago bench that Lubos Kubik will have his calf x-rayed at the half inside the area, and there's Mike Clark to deny the opportunity for Chicago. Columbus on the counter. This is Williams through ball to Varzia through three Fire defenders. Armas comes to help and takes the ball from Varzia, but can't handle it beyond the touchline to the Crew. Kubik, an outstanding international career, the Czech national. Watching now from the bench, and here's Stern John left foot, and Zach Thornton gobbles it up. Not much pace on the ball off the left side from Stern. John.
Oh, John will let you have it from any position of the field. I mean, normally he has a very quick release on the ball. That's one of the reasons he led the league in scoring, the MLS in scoring, with 26 goals. Stern led the A-League last year in scoring with New Orleans.
Played for Chicago assistant Mike Jeffries for the Riverboat Gamblers. Jeffries, during the course of the season, as Stern was lighting it up, said, "Hey, I knew he was good, but I didn't think he was that good." Said it with a smile. Now Williams chips it, had notions, I think, to get it to John. Now Williams cleans it up again. John from McBride, a little too far. And the ball rolls out for a goal kick for the Fire.
In the last couple of minutes, we've seen glimpses of what Andy Williams is capable of. There we saw that little chip pass over the defense that is a creative ability that he has. I think we're going to see it here. Get it up and over. Look at, he sensed the defender coming on him and just lifted it up and over. And moments earlier, when he had the ball at midfield on the dead run, he had 3 defenders closing him down, yet the patience and the confidence to hold on to the ball, let those guys make the move, and then slide a pass forward.
Novak and Jesse Marsh playing some combination out on the far side of the field, but Brosny will have to clean it up for O'Carroll. McBride and Ansel Elcock come to double team. Fire playing it back to relieve some of the Crew's defensive pressure.
Well, in the early going of this game, the Fire had possession of the ball. They were making the Crew chase. But finally, the Crew were able to get into a little bit of a flow and a mix. And now the Fire needs to get that possession back, and they've been unable to.
Williams, as McBride breaks for the center and inside the area, the ball is blocked by Armas, and that'll be a corner kick for the Crew. One of the things that Chicago loses is the ability with your sweeper to go forward. Kubik is so good making decisions about when to move forward. Josh Keller has probably been told by his staff to stay at home.
You're talking about losing a World Cup player to a guy just out of college. Make your own judgments there.
Now Mazonoff gets the rebound, and the foul is called inside the area against Columbus, and so Chicago will get the restart set at the other direction, and a quick restart is intercepted by Iribarren. Now he launches it well beyond everything.
Ricardo, what the heck, he says. He had the goal for the Crew in their semifinal win over the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars. And one thing about the Crew is they have not allowed a goal since early on in their first game against the Rochester Raging Rhinos. They've gone 250 minutes without being scored upon.
Here's Wolf with an opportunity, and Clark comes to close, and the ball is rolled beyond the touchline and beyond the end line, in fact. That'll be a throw-in for the Fire. It did not get beyond the end line, so Richie Kochow puts it into play. He's looking for Podbrozny, tries to touch it to Marsh inside the area. Keller now moves up into the attack. Kochow takes the ball away from Williams, who I think wanted a dangerous play call. He's not going to get it. Wolf, sliding tackle attempted by Varzian. Now long cross for Ante Razov, and too much on it. Got way too much air under it for Ante Razov.
A good idea by Josh Keller. He just held on to the ball enough to allow Varzia to go slipping on by, and then saw the run being made at the far post. Tried to get it there, but it's a tough play. Josh Wolf, what a player he is and is going to be. He's been a key member of a lot of the youth national teams. Gets his first call-up with the big squad next Friday night, the 6th of November, in San Jose against Australia.
At the MLS level, he scored 3 game-winning goals after the 75th minute. In other words, in the final 15 minutes of regulation for Chicago. He says, hey, I just look at it very simply. It's my job as a striker to score goals, or if I can't, to try to make something happen for somebody else. Wolf at just 21 years of age. Now the long feed for Jesse Marsh from Novak into the corner. Elcock marking. Marsh waits for help now, crosses. He's looking for Keller, and Dooley wins it in the middle. He goes down, took a shot to the face. Armas gathers it in for Chicago. Now Podbrozny fires, and it's deflected over the bar.
Dangerous, dangerous chance for Chicago there, but ball got deflected on its way in, and Pobrozny got all of it. This is a guy that led Poland in scoring 2 different years. Dooley is feeling the effects of that.
They went to the air, and Dooley obviously got the worst of it.
Oh, looked like Josh Keller in there, the noggin across the nose and the teeth of Mr. Dooley.
Shot by Pobrozny, deflected off of the Fire, and so a goal kick for Jürgen Sommer, who actually played 14 minutes in the field.
In this U.S. Open Cup tournament, you talk about how down-manned Chicago is right now. Well, when the Crew went to play Miami in the quarterfinals, they had a load of guys out to injury. And Sommer got 14 minutes up front, and I'm told by some of his teammates if he had any skill, he would have scored a goal.
Also out of this match for Chicago, Roman Kosecki, Polish national now. Wolf has the ball banged back to the middle of the field, and Williams finally collects it for Columbus. Josh Wolf giving chase, and Williams is having none of it.
Well, the talented Jamaican national team player Andy Williams has come to play tonight.
Message received?
I think so, for the time being.
Well, as Coach Fitzgerald says, that part of it has to do with what we're trying to accomplish here, the final game of the 1998 season, but also to set a tone for MLS and beyond in 1999. Here is Clark playing some combination with Williams, and Rozoff goes down, and the foul call goes against Andy Williams.
Williams, just 21 years old, from Kingston, played collegiately at Rhode Island. Watch this, watch the thinking, the quick thinking of Andy Williams right there. He knew the defender, just trying to flip it up and over him. It didn't execute it well enough to get on by, but he had that thought in his head from the time the ball was headed to him.
Mazonoff, member of the U.S. national team, along with Brian McBride, played 90 minutes in a pair of them. Now to Clark, who started all 92 games in his outstanding career at Indiana University. Off the challenge from Keller, the throw in for Smith. John picks it up and can't get it to his cousin Ansel Elcock. Long ball played to Rozoff, and the race is on now. Iribarren comes to pick him up. 3 Crew defenders back here. Iribarren doesn't need any help.
Right, you know, originally when Ricardo was headed to close that down, I thought he took a bad angle to the ball, but changed it toward the end of the run and stuck in perfectly. What a great tackle.
Ansel Elcock making a run around C.J. Brown, who slides and knocks the ball beyond the end line to disrupt the cross, but it's another corner kick for the Crew.
Elcock showing some jets along the left side. Out of step there, C.J. struggling to keep up. He's able to get there in the nick of time to keep the ball from the mix.
O'Caro bangs the low header back to Keller, who gets into it. Now the ball plays over the head of Elcock. Now Josh Wolf settles it down. Pobrozny. Now the combination play. And a great sliding tackle by Mike Clark, as Josh Wolf had a beat on a one-on-one session with Jürgen Sommer.
2 times down the field, the Fire have been getting opportunities off of counterattacks, and the Crew have been making crucial, great tackles. But what Columbus has to be aware of now and very cognizant of is they're pushing up, they're getting into the game, their defenders are going forward, but they're leaving themselves open on the back. And Chicago, with those quick, long balls, are getting Josh Wolf up front.
Offside trap works in Chicago's favor. Brian McBride takes a step down too far. Chicago on the counter. This is Keller. Nice through ball from Marsh. Iribarren is there. Throw in for the Fire. Iribarren has a couple of words with the referee's assistant, Echeverria.
and 31 years old. Played his first season in MLS with the Crew in 1996. Then had visa troubles getting back from Argentina, and was happy as could be to finally get back in the States and play for Columbus.
Smith closes on Podbrozny. Little combination work with Marsh. Dooley is there, and Marsh knocks it out of bounds beyond the touchline. Throw in for the Crew, who, what a season they had in MLS. They won 4 of their first 5 games, then they lost 3 of 4, then had a stretch where they went 4-4, so they split the difference. Lost 4 of 5, won 5 in a row, and lost 5 in a row going into the playoffs.
Yeah, that was one thing that Tom Fitzgerald was concerned about. I mean, you're going into the playoffs, and they had a chance. Actually, the Crew has finished 15-17 every year of their existence, and it looked prior to the final 5 games that they might have a 20-win season, but they just got stuck in the mud, and the losses piled up. It's been a juggling act for the Crew and Tom Fitzgerald. He's had 4 guys, actually 5 guys he lost to World Cup competition. Then you got guys getting injured, so all season long he was trying to keep everything going, and a master juggler this season.
C.J. Brown called for the foul down low. Now John lays it off. And the cross. McBride at the back post sends it to the middle of the area. It's cleared by Novak.
Well, that's what the Crew is trying to do. Get the ball in the air, get it to McBride. Unfortunately, Brian was moving backwards instead of forward into that last attempt.
Brian Mazanoff starts that sequence with the cross. How happy do you think that Columbus is to have him back? He missed the last 4 games with a sprained ankle. He also had to have surgery and missed 6 weeks after first injuring that ankle on July the 9th in the match at Ohio Stadium against Chicago.
Well, you talk about the good start the Crew got off to. One of the reasons they got off to such an excellent beginning was Brian Mazanoff. The guy actually tied a record at the time for consecutive games with an assist at 5. That was later to be broken by his teammate Andy Williams. But the injury bug and the trip to France in the World Cup, Mazanoff didn't play a lot of games for Columbus.
Razov one-on-one with Varzija.
Such great defending from Robert Varzija, the 35-year-old right there. Varzija didn't bite or bite on any of the moves Ante Razov had to offer. And Robert will just chug on back to his midfield spot. Watch, he has to hurry up to get in, and then he shepherded that. Well, that was after Razov had tried to make the move to the end line.
C.J. Brown goes over the back of Brian McBride, who has scored 3 of the Crew's 6 goals in U.S. Open Cup competition. McBride also had 4 goals in the MLS playoffs. Now Varzija.
You know, this is joy for Robert Varzija. He's had some things going on family-wise that have taken his mind away from a game. His 10-year-old son, Bartosz, diagnosed with cancer. So that's on his mind. And you know, U.S. Soccer and the Chicago Fire have each donated $1,000 apiece to Robert Varzija and his family to help with the chemotherapy and everything that is involved with a 10-year-old kid who comes down with cancer.
Right around the time that diagnosis was made, now Williams into the area. C.J. Brown is having a good night in the air, and he's got to be Mazanoff. Novak knocks it back out. Chicago on the counter. Williams and Razov in a shoving match near the sideline. Razov keeps it alive for Keller. Sliding tackle made by Mazanoff.
Of course, just to finish that thought, Brian, our thoughts and prayers with the Varzija family.
Absolutely. There will be a benefit in the middle of December in Columbus organized by the organization to raise additional funds. Now Keller lays it off for Wolf, and Josh Wolf. Summer with the save. Ricardo Iribarren was also in the neighborhood, but a good chance for Josh Wolf.
Josh Wolf is only 21 years old, yet it amazes me how intelligent he is with the runs that he makes and how he has a nose for the goal. This guy just knows where to be, just nicked in there. That ball could have easily found its way past Iribarren in Summer. Well, he's going to be a good one. He already is, but when this guy gets a few years underneath him, incredible.
He's exactly the kind of guy that the powers that be at the U.S. Soccer Federation are thinking about when they put together a program like Project 40. They take guys who otherwise would have been playing collegiate soccer and they bring them into a national team system. Now Williams' feet inside a little too far. Elcock comes to challenge Marsh, and Jesse Marsh has to turn and wheel on it. Iribarren plays it back to Elcock, who is fouled by Jesse Marsh.
Jesse probably doesn't think he should have gotten the foul, but he did.
The men's national team is back in action Friday, November 6th at 7:30. That's Pacific time, taking on Australia at Spartan Stadium in San Jose. For tickets, area code 408. Zach Thornton, as the ball floats inside. Dooley was right in the neighborhood. 408-554-8886, or you can call the San Jose Clash at 408-985-GOAL. Combination play, and Wolf breaks free. Takes a step on Iribarren, but Dooley sticks the foot in at the 18-yard line. Now Mazenard, challenged by Armas and fouled by Chris Armas.
Well, Chicago right now has out-fouled Columbus 11-3.
They're right by my fingers. Just don't hit any really switch.
Chris Armas doesn't get an awful lot of popular press, but I think it's worth noting again that it was Armas that turned the deal that brought Jorge Campos to Chicago. Campos now out of the picture here. Garcia, Conchal vying in the corner, and that's a goal kick for the Fire.
Robert is the all-time assist leader in Crew history.
So Armas touches again. Now, those who follow the sport a little more closely absolutely know that Chris Armas was, in fact, voted to the best 11 at the end of the Major League season. Now, C.J. Brown has got some trouble with Stern John. Plays it to the far side to Jesse Marsh. The foul was called, and so Zach Thornton will take the restart from that spot.
That's a good battle right there. Stern John and C.J. Brown. Two big guys with a lot of strength. Classy move by Brown there under pressure. And normally you don't want to wheel back in front of your goal, but that was the option that was open to him in that particular instance.
Here's Podbrozhny from Armas. Through ball intended for Razov, and it bangs off of his foot, and it's cleared by Iribarren. Williams now for John. Novak comes to play it back to his keeper, Thornton.
I think one of the reasons that Chicago may not be getting into this game possession-wise is Novak has stayed defensive for the most part.
Now John inside the area, still on his feet. C.J. Brown bodied him up. A corner kick for Columbus.
John, this guy, not only was he scoring goals like crazy for the Columbus Crew, but he went and played in the Caribbean Cup, a tournament for all the teams down in the Caribbean, obviously, playing for Trinidad, and he scored 10 goals in 3 games. Just so explosive and strong. There you see him using his left arm. His teammate Marcelo Carrera gave him the nickname El Pulpo, which means the octopus.
We're not trying to get funky on you. Garcia into the area, off the head, Iribarren, and Thornton with the save. But as the rain and the mist continue to shroud Soldier Field, it has affected some of our cameras. So that effect that you see on the replays and some of the shots that you get tonight, a direct result of the weather here in Chicago. Give you a good look at what our crew is up against tonight at Soldier Field.
Still a great night for soccer.
This game was supposed to have been played under much milder conditions, and I think under the circumstances, considering that Hurricane Bonnie disrupted the first attempt at a final in Virginia Beach in August, the combatants will take this. Marsh playing it along the touchline and under serious pressure from Elcock. He still gets it away to Novak. Razov, one touch to Keller. Inside the area, was looking for Wolf, but Iribarren is there again. Beyond the touchline, a throw in deep for the Fire.
There's Peter Novak, who has really been relegated to a sweeper position here. That quad injury hurt him. He's not going forward.
Richie Kochow had a chance, but Varzia is having a terrific night, and he knocks the ball beyond the end line. So a corner kick for Chicago off of a great cross by Jesse Marsh. Keller touches it back to Kochow. The double team. Williams knocks it out. Richie Kochow, the rookie out of George Mason University. Andy Williams came to double team, and now Iribarren goes down, and the challenge by Josh Wolf. He was looking for a call. He's not going to get it. McBride plays some combination with Smith. Now hammers it down low, and Novak indeed is playing far deeper than he's accustomed. McBride takes it away from Kochow. Garcia has to contend with Chris Armas, so he lays it back off the heel to Williams, and C.J. Brown right at the D. Ball is played off the referee, Angeles. Armas, and Jesse Marsh puts it right to Andy Williams, so Josh Keller has to come clean it up. Williams with the shot. It's blocked by Keller. Kochow will gather it up for Chicago.
The Fire fortunate there. You don't normally see Jesse Marsh make a mistake like that. Fortunately for him and the Fire, his teammates were able to regroup and stop that attack.
We're inside the final 3 minutes of the first half at Soldier Field in Chicago. Keller to Armas, the through ball. Wolf a little late getting there, and Thomas Dooley quick to clean it up for Columbus. Do remember that we will add injury time, and Arturo Angeles, unlike the MLS situation where the clock is the official time, Angeles will add some injury time at the end of the half. Novak to Wolf. Josh Wolf, and Summer comes out and slides the ball away. And that's going to be a penalty kick for Chicago, I believe.
Well, I got to see that again. It looked to me like Summer got the ball. He came out hard. I thought he made a good decision coming out and playing that. It was on the far side of the field for us. Let's take a look. I thought this was a great play when I originally saw it. Yes, indeed. Wolf got the touch in. It got past Summer, and then Jurgen took him down.
His goalkeeper in the...
Jurgen was just a split second late getting there. Didn't time it right. But he's going to get a yellow card. This is going to be a PK for the Chicago Fire.
Jerzy Pobrozny will take it. Lubos Kubik has taken all 6 this season, 4 in the regular season, and then 2 in the MLS playoffs. But with Kubik out with the injury, Jerzy Pobrozny will get the call.
I thought Angeles was right on that call, and I mean, that's a split-second thing right there. Very definitive with the whistle.
Pobrozny scored the game winner to finish the Western Conference Finals in the shootout. He also scored what turned out to be the game winner in the MLS Cup game at Pasadena a week ago. This time he'll get it from 12 yards out. And he scores to give Chicago a 1-0 lead in the final stages of the first half. Advantage Fire on the penalty kick by Pobrozny.
Well taken by the 31-year-old veteran. Tom Poole just slid it to the left of Jürgen Sommer. And against the run of play, the Chicago Fire have taken a 1-0 lead. No chance for Jürgen Sommer. He guessed right. It went left. And Podbrozny has takeoff.
From Chicago's perspective, it could not have happened at a better time, and we are now in injury time. And Podbrozny again off a great heel pass from Razov. He returns it to the far side. Ira Barron comes to meet at the edge of the area. Through Armas and Keller, and the ball is tackled away by Brian Mazonoff.
Well, that situation, an attack for the Fire, getting them the penalty kick, came off another great run from Josh Wolf, and the counter-attack ability they've been showing throughout this first half.
There are approximately 2 minutes of injury time remaining here in the first half. Mazonoff marked by Razov, and a bad pass right into the chest of Chris Armas.
Reminder that the referee keeps the official time.
Gottschalk plays it back to Novak.
Right now, essentially, the midfield for the Fire consists of Armas, Keller, Podbrozny, and Gottschalk.
Interesting how this thing turns with the injury to Kubik. Chicago has to change its tactics. And now McBride, as C.J. Brown slipped, now he regains himself. Novak is also in the back. Novak and Josh Keller have essentially traded places. Andy Williams, top of the D. Stern John taken off the ball by O'Caro, and Chicago again with a chance. Columbus has the numerical advantage, but Jerzy Podbrozny down the wing. The cross for Razov gets behind him. Varzea will clean it up for the Crew. Mazonoff, as Armas goes down, play on. Dooley brings it up. Varzea tried to put the through ball to Elcock, but Jesse Marsh able to pick it off and send it back the other way.
That ball has a little more pace on it, and it slices the Fire defense.
And we are at the half. Jerzy Podbrozny's penalty kick in the 45th minute has given the Chicago Fire the advantage at intermission as they play for the U.S. Open Cup against the Columbus Crew. Fire coach Bob Bradley on the sidelines. The injury to Kubik in the early going, Bob, forced you to change your tactics a little bit, didn't it?
Yes, we're so short-handed in the Open Cup with red cards from the last game and with cup-tied players that we were a little unsure how to go. But Peter Novak has helped us settle things down in the back, and it's nice to have a halftime lead.
Bob, can you give us an idea of how this game, the complexion of it, fits with what you're watching and how you're feeling right now?
Well, obviously, it's a hard-fought game. The fact that it's wet and everybody's getting in on tackles, it's a difficult night for everybody.
Bob, thanks very much. Good luck in the second half.
Thank you.
That's Fire coach Bob Bradley coming up. It's the U.S. Open Cup final on Fox Sports Net. Chicago leads Columbus as the Fire goes for the double at Soldier Field. Take a look at your scoring summary for the first half. Short and sweet. Jerzy Podbrozny on the penalty kick in the late stages. 45th minute of play. Welcome back with Ed Vicinic. I'm Brian Davis. Eddie, it's interesting the way things went, because after the injury to Kubik, Columbus actually started to pick up the play and had the advantage of play for a good portion of the first half. Then Bradley makes the defensive adjustment, inserts Novak in a more defensive role, and it pays off.
No question about it. Columbus had the play after the first 10 minutes, but the thing that was developing was Chicago was countering well, and they were getting some chances. Some good tackles made by Columbus prevented some chances for the Fire, but then it was Novak creeping up and playing that through ball to get the PK.
Now the Fire has the opportunity to really do what Chicago does best. I think sometimes they get criticized unfairly as a team that is strictly defensively oriented. Those of us who have watched Chicago the course of the season know that that is not really true, but the fact is that now they have the advantage. They can lay back and really force the Crew to bring the play to Chicago, can't they?
Well, Bob Bradley said it. We'll attack when we have the ball. We'll defend when we don't have the ball, and that's what they're going to do.
Crew coach Tom Fitzgerald is on the sideline. Tom, as you take a look at what you need to do to break through in the second half, what comes to the top of the list?
Well, I think we played pretty well the first half. They had basically two dangerous balls that Jurgen got out for the first one and took the guy down for a penalty in the second one. So really the difference in the game right now is a penalty kick, but we're creating some chances. We're getting through to them, and we just need to keep doing that and take advantage of an opportunity.
Yeah, I think so. Tom, is there anything that you wanted to change with these guys at halftime? I thought the attack went well. It's just you didn't put the ball in there.
No, I think we're doing well. We got to reward ourselves with a goal.
All right, good luck.
Thanks.
Tom Fitzgerald, the coach of the Columbus Crew, as they get set to start the second half. We take a look at your MasterCard halftime stats. Columbus, and you can see the way the play ran by, for instance, the Crew's advantage in shots and also in corner kicks. The Fire forced to play a much more physical game, and the fouls edge show that as we kick it off for the second half.
There's a lot of slipping going on early on. Maybe they went for the studs rather than just the molded. We'll see if there's any better footing.
Now the cross, and it's cleared by Thomas Dooley. We talked about the fouls. Dooley won the Fair Play Award this year in MLS. Chris Armas now double teamed by Clark and Varzija, and Mike Clark wins the ball for the Crew. Dooley has some space in which to operate as Chicago drops back. Wolf comes to challenge Ricardo Iribarren. Now again to Clark, who, by the way, is a big fan of the band Smashing Pumpkins. Billy Corgan lives here in Chicago. The Pumpkins lead singer. He's actually a pretty big sports fan. You see him at Wrigley Field for the Cubs and the United Center for the Chicago Blackhawks in the National Hockey League. Wonder if Mike was able to arrange an audience. At this moment, of course, he has got far more important things on his mind as the Crew tries now to work out of this 1-0 hole. Nice heel pass, good idea for Stern John. Andy Williams not quite able to get there. Ansel Elcock again, and he's taken off the ball by Jesse Marsh. Look at Dooley to John, and off the head of Peter Novak, buying a little room for the Fire after Columbus threatened to make something out of it at the 18-yard line.
Pass.
Very dangerous pass, absolutely. C.J. Brown right in the neighborhood. Now he heads it down, and Kochow traps it on his chest and sends it beyond the touchline. So a throw in for the Crew.
Look at that battle between those two. Good help from Novak.
Now Varzija turns, and don't know if he was going to try that shot from a very difficult angle or whether the idea was to cross it, but in the end, that's going to be another corner kick for the Crew.
Varzija will take it. This is the one thing that Tom Fitzgerald and his coaching staff, Greg Van Drulis, kind of drilled home to their team as they headed toward the final stages of the regular season. They weren't sacrificing themselves on corner kicks and these set pieces, and these guys got to go harder after the ball.
Inside, and Mazonoff, and he lays it outside the near post, but Brian Mazonoff had the opportunity off the service from Varzija.
Watch the twist of the body that Mazonoff had to contort himself to get to this one. He's on the back end, leans forward, and just a quick head flick on the ball, and that probably would have been handled very easily by Thornton had it been on goal.
Fire once again working that possession game in tight quarters. Kotschow down the left side from Keller.
Something we haven't talked about is the development of this U.S. Open Cup, and the U.S. Soccer Federation has become more involved in it since 1995. They realize it's not to the prestige level yet that they would like it to be, but it is moving very steadily in that direction. And you look at a crowd that you have here tonight, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's got to be 20 plus, maybe in the 25,000 range. This is a tournament that they target to be as prestigious as the ones overseas in England and everywhere else. And there's a lot of romanticism involved in this. I mean, if you're a team that's not a pro team, you get the right breaks and the ball goes your way, you could be playing the big boys and a chance to win it all.
Well, a great example last year, the San Francisco Bay Seals made a run all the way to the semifinals by upsetting first Kansas City and then the San Jose Clash of MLS, and Zach Thornton makes no mistake. He had some escorts, but he leaves his line and comes out to gather the ball in and start his teammates in the other direction.
There's also some international experience that is centered around the champions here. The Chicago Fire will already be playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup next year due to their win at the MLS Cup last Sunday. But if the Crew wins here, they have a chance to play in the CONCACAF Cup Winners' Cup. So some international things going along here as well.
Barcia marked by Kotschow, and he lays it down to the near post, and Zach Thornton gobbles it up. U.S. Soccer would like to thank MasterCard and all of the other U.S. Soccer sponsors for bringing you this game commercial-free. Andy Williams intercepts the pass intended for Marsh. Through ball is disrupted by Novak. McBride is there. He gets the right foot on it, and he tries to curl it to the far post, but it is a little bit too far. Tough situation for McBride. He got a gift right at the 18-yard line.
A couple of intelligent runs from the Crew there. Stern John was making his run toward goal when Andy Williams had it. He saw that space was closed off. He backed off, gave himself some room. Williams played it in, and then McBride was just sniffing around the outside, saw the ball pop free, and got on it as quickly as he could. Not the greatest chance, but a half chance for the Crew.
In 24 games this year in MLS, McBride scored 10 goals, also had 7 assists. His coach Tom Fitzgerald says that really, and we've told him, this is Fitzgerald talking now, we've told him he should have a goal and an assist every match. So from that standpoint, this was an average, perhaps even in Fitzgerald's estimation, a below average year for Brian McBride.
Brian's never had anybody to run up front with. He's always been the main man. Now all of a sudden Stern John comes along and this guy can score. And the other thing he had to get used to was the feeds he was getting from the midfield. You know, Andy Williams and Stern John and Ansel Alcock, they're all from the Caribbean. They have that style of play, and it took some time for McBride to fit in and figure out when the ball was going to be played to him, where it was going to be played at. This is a total different style for Brian McBride to get used to than what he was the first 2 years in Columbus.
Fitzgerald very quick to add, hey, listen, you look at the playoffs, the guy has scored some big goals for us. He had 4 in the MLS postseason. Ear Barn looking for Elcock. Nothing doing. 3 firemen there. Now Keller plays it. Here comes Smith. And down goes, wow, Brian McBride is knocked down by Chris Armas. Jumped up to complain that he was getting the worst of it on the front end of that sequence, but a free kick from about 25 yards out for the Crew, straight down the barrel, top of the D.
You know, Chris Armas was complaining about that, and I was wondering why he was, unless something happened prior to that, but that was clearly a foul on Armas's part. And there's a guy that might be part of the U.S. national team if he gets some things straightened out. Chris played a couple of games for Puerto Rico.
And now the blast and a goal! Stern John! Off the restart, Columbus has been working on it, and it pays off in a big way. We're tied at 1.
That ball had a couple of flight attendants on it. It was hit with such power. Stern John just unleashing that right foot. The set piece pays off. Let's watch it again. They just laid off. In comes Stern. Stop. Bang. It might have gotten deflected on the way in.
Well, he pulled the right edge off the way that they began the sequence in Varsia's first touch. It pulled the right side of the Chicago wall apart and gave Stern John some room. And now the cross by Kotschow, disrupted by Dooley, a corner kick for the Fire.
I want to finish my Chris Armas thought. Chris played a couple of games with the Puerto Rican national team that were non-sanctioned events, and that is all getting straightened out. So Chris is looking forward to his opportunity to play with the U.S. national team as well.
That is Stern John's first goal in U.S. Open Cup competition. To the air goes C.J. Brown. Summer the bicycle move by Razov high over the bar.
Ante going for a little showtime there with his left foot. Got up and didn't get over the ball enough. What a season Ante Razov has had. This guy was looking for a job prior to the 1998 season. He got invited to the Fire camp as a non-roster invitee. And lo and behold, he's their leading scorer.
Now here's a guy who knows how to do it. He led UCLA in scoring for 2 seasons and was second on the sheet. And now Thornton has to back up all the way to his line as the floater comes in from Mazonoff. Or was that McBride? Indeed, it was Brian McBride. Clark and Williams do some work on the far side. Now Andy Williams tries to start Varsiha with Rob Smith closing in, and Zach Thornton comes back after being pushed all the way to his line on the previous play.
This is something that Zach Thornton has improved upon tremendously this season. And talking with assistant coach Mike Jeffries, you see this guy who's 6'3", 210 pounds, you immediately assume that he is great in the air, but he has improved so much in making decisions and reading the balls from the wings. It looks like we're going to get another free kick, and Varzia has been a nemesis for the Fire to handle on the wings.
He has been having quite a night, and he turned the corner there on Kotschow. He's got Mazonoff with him. Now Mazonoff peels off, and into the air is Stern John, and it's deflected by Zach Thornton. Kicks it beyond the post. Zach Thornton comes up big in a critical situation for Chicago to keep it a tie game.
Now the birthday boy had 2 guys on him and was still able to rise above. Here's the ball played by Varzia. Dangerous ball, it's curling away. John, there was just one guy there, and it looked like Francis O'Carroll, but he got himself some space by using his arms. He is so good at that, and made it a dangerous situation for Zach Thornton. Good reaction, great reaction save on the part of Thornton.
Thornton was Tony Meola's backup for 2 seasons and played very sparingly in New York, New Jersey. Now Jesse Marsh's service, and oh my, crowd here in Chicago was thinking own goal, and it will be a corner kick.
Now this time it was Mike Clark about 5 minutes ago or so. Thomas Dooley and Urian Summer kind of got crossed up on a ball that got played in there, and I thought Summer should have taken, but Dooley stuck a foot in, so there's some miscommunication going on.
Low cross in the corner from Podbrozny. Now the rebound, it's saved by Summer. Clark was also there. Summer's hand or Clark's foot keeps Chicago out of the net.
What a great ball from Ante Razov. He knew exactly what he was going to do with that great vision to lay it to the left wing and some space for Richie Kotschow. Watch the touch that Razov. He knows where his teammate is. It slips on through. Didn't even think about it. Boom. There's the opportunity. That was saved by Clark on the back line.
That was Clark. Kotschow scored one of the first most goals in Chicago history. The first game at Miami. Also was a nominee for Goal of the Year. That award was won by McBride, and down goes Podbrozny, grabbing his upper leg, and we've got a situation here. Now somebody puts the shove on O'Carroll. Francis O'Carroll wants a piece of Andy Williams.
Mazanov came charging in on that tackle. It was a clumsy tackle, and O'Carroll let Mazanov know about it. Obviously some words were exchanged, and I think Thomas Dooley might have lost a chain, but Podbrozny is hurting, and that's the last thing that Bob Bradley and the Chicago Fire need right now. Watch Mazanov come barreling in after the fight here from Andy Williams. The Fire will gain possession. Came barreling in from the side. And O'Carroll will step in and have a word with Mazanov, and then things broke loose.
And Mazanov will go into the book.
Mazanov came in hard and dangerous, but I don't believe that was from behind.
Tom Fitzgerald looks on as we take a look at some of the pushing and shoving, and now, well, Iribarren got a piece of Francis O'Carroll, who is an ultra-competitive sort. He doesn't like to lose a game in practice.
Thomas Dooley was the guy that made the push on O'Carroll that got him going. And then Francis tried to pick his way around the crowd to find number 5, the crew captain.
Fitzgerald joked the other day.
Mazanov gets a yellow card, and so does O'Carroll after that scramble. And it comes in the 60th minute, 61st minute. Bradley and Jeffries looking on.
Novak into the area and headed right back out by Mazanov.
Like I said, the last thing Bob Bradley needs now is another one of his key players to go down with injury, and at this point everyone wearing a white shirt is a key player.
Stern John's clearance first bounced off the official Angeles, and then he gets a second chance to put it to Ansel Elcock, who takes O'Carroll down and goes into the book himself.
Well, this is a bit reminiscent of how physical the Fire's game against Dallas was in the semifinals. There was something like 45 fouls, just a ton of cards given out. And then Elcock there just got tangled up just a bit. I don't believe there was anything malicious there, but the way the play has been developing, Angeles just trying to get some control and reaches in the pocket.
He got the top of his foot. Ansel Elcock, we mentioned earlier, is a cousin of Stern John's. Caught the MLS bug in 1996 watching Major League Soccer on television. Basically made a phone call or two and said, hey, sign me up.
He is a very valuable player to have on any team, and the Crew fortunate to have him because this guy is a guy that you can put on any part of the field and he will be a good addition to your team. You need him to play defense, he's there. He can play midfield, he can go forward. He actually started his international career as a forward, but due to some injuries he got put back, so he has talent to play anywhere, and that's a valuable piece to have to the puzzle.
3 of those 5 yellow cards you just saw on the screen have been issued in the last 3 minutes.
Good idea from Dooley, but the direction for Iribarren wasn't good enough to get it on by Josh Wolf. We got a great crowd here tonight. They've been making noise since before the opening whistle. That's a great touch by Williams. Just a little bit heavy. Ran him into a defender.
Williams back and Armas challenges, and here is Ante Razov. Iribarren cleans it up a little bit too much on the ball for Razov. He slides and tries to save the play with Josh Wolf charging, but Iribarren is there.
Well, the Crew defenders are getting lulled to sleep just a bit.
The men's national team back in action Friday, November 6th at 7:30 p.m. That's Pacific time, taking on Australia in a friendly at Spartan Stadium in San Jose. For tickets, a couple of numbers, 408-554-8886, or you can call the San Jose Clash at 408-985-GOLD. Now the crowd is really getting into it as Jesse Marsh sizes things up beyond Ansel Elcock. Smith comes to help. Josh Wolf keeps the play alive inside the area, is looking for Razov. Mazonoff at an aisle. Great tackle by Brian Mazonoff.
A good foul taken by Peter Novak.
Welcome to Soldier Field in Chicago with Ed Vicinic. I'm Brian Davis. It is the final of the U.S. Open Cup Championship. The Fire playing on its home pitch, but tonight playing the role of the visitor, wearing the whites. The crew wearing the black jerseys and the gold pants.
Now, there was a team in Chicago about 10-15 years ago that looked similar to the Columbus Crew. Chicago Sting colors, the black and gold.
Varsia around Kochow. Armas off his foot as Varsia tried to cross it. And now Smith does. And a chance for Elcock, and it goes between his legs. He heels it back, and O'Caro is there to waste it beyond the touchline on the near side.
Elcock's going to be thinking of that one. He might have been screened. The ball just slipped on through his legs, but he had space in front of the Fire goal.
C.J. Brown has won just about every battle in the air tonight.
Great ball from Smith. Stern John, I believe, tried to get a head on it. Oops. Might have nicked off the head of Francis O'Caro as well. Elcock with 8 assists this year. He did not score.
Now McBride tries to turn and go, and look at what Ansel Elcock finds. And he starts to go around Novak, and play on, says the official. Angeles McBride giving Armas all kinds of trouble. Richie Kochow from beyond the end line, just inside it to beyond the touchline on the far side. Pounded inside the area and pounded right back out by Peter Novak. Now O'Caro and John Vyfort, Richie Kochow there to help as well. C.J. Brown mentioned the San Francisco Bay Seals that made it all the way to the Open Cup semifinals a season ago. C.J. Brown, out of San Jose State University, by the way, was a member of that San Francisco Bay Seals club. So he knows a little bit about the excitement of the U.S. Open Cup, and he knows a little bit about the excitement of being called to the U.S. national team.
Well, like Bruce Arena said in a halftime interview, a lot of guys from the Fire getting their first chance, and well-deserved. I mean, they played a great season, and now they're getting their opportunity because of it.
And Brown moves up into the play, and he banks it off McBride.
And another thing that Bruce Arena said in his press conference on Tuesday, he said, you know what, I'm not going to be choosing players on reputation. They got to be playing at the highest level, and they got to be playing on form. That's the way they will get on the national team with me.
Brian Mazonoff will come out after playing well into the second half. Todd Yeagley, another of 4 Indiana University players on the Columbus roster, takes his place. Todd Yeagley, the son of Hoosiers coach Jerry Yeagley.
This is the first game in the Open Cup that Todd has not started. He has played every minute of the prior 3 games. Tom Fitzgerald going with a little bit different look, and Yeagley also had a key goal against the Raging Rhinos of Rochester in the round of 16 when he scored 103 minutes into the game. The golden goal from Todd Yeagley.
And that's what happens here. If we are tied at the end of regulation, we will play 2 15-minute sudden death overtime periods before we go to the shootout. But Grozny anticipating Kochow a little too far ahead.
Well, what it looks like now, as far as the way this game has been developing, if the Fire are going to score a goal, it's going to come on a counterattack. They're only attacking with 2 or 3 players at the most. And you don't see Peter Novak making those runs upfield too much in this game because he's settled back into defense.
And there he's tackled by Yeagley. That shootout, by the way, is of the penalty kick variety, international rules. Dooley intercepts the pass intended for Armas. Now John with C.J. Brown marking and leg whipping him and earning his place in Arturo Angeles' book in the 69th minute.
6 cards, 6 yellow cards in the game. CJ really didn't have a chance for this ball and just nails Stern John.
C.J. Brown, along with Peter Novak and Lubos Kubik, named to the Soccer America Team of the Year. Novak, Kubik, Chris Armas, and Zach Thornton, members of the MLS Best 11, along with Stern John and Thomas Dooley from the Cruise side of things. Smith looking for a place to put it. Now Yeagley, he was going on the far side for Mike Clark. Ball is intercepted by the Fire. Kochow bangs it long for Wolf over Dooley's head, but nobody there on the Chicago end to clean it up, and Ibarra escorts it to the point where Jurgen Sommer could pick it up and send it the other way.
The toughest part that Columbus has had to deal with defensively is falling asleep just momentarily on counterattacks, because for the most part it's just 1-on-5, 2-on-5, 1-on-4. Who's been able to handle those situations?
Through ball for Podbrozhny from Armas, or rather from Okaro, and a great sliding tackle by Thomas Dooley. Noticing now that Mike Clark is playing a little bit more forward from his central defender spot, playing up that right wing. C.J. Brown is whistled for the infraction.
Mike likes to get into the attack, and the fact that, you know, Columbus really doesn't need all that many numbers back there the way that Chicago is going after this.
John slips. Josh Keller is there. Off to Wolf, and he gets tangled up on the far side with Mike Clark.
Mike Clark it was beaten on that play by Josh Wolf, and that you could make a case for a yellow card there as well. He just rode Wolf off the play. This guy's got some pace, and Mike Clark not in a good position that time. Took a good foul, but could have gotten the yellow.
Speed to burn. Podbrozhny had a great finish to the regular season and then into the playoffs. Coaches loved his work rate in the first round against Colorado. Kochow rolls it right into Sommer.
Boy, the crew gave Richie Kochow a lot of space there, about 35 yards away from goal, and Richie probably had another chance to take a touch and move forward. That's more space than you want to give a guy in that portion of the field.
Started to mention earlier that Kochow was nominated for a goal of the year with a great diving header at New England in June. Brian McBride won that competition. Oh, yeah. Lays it inside to McBride. Williams had a notion to clean it up, but Peter Novak a step too quick. Now he's looking for Podbrozhny, and Clark is there. Smith saves it, and Varsia brings it. Armas loses his footing, and Robert Varsia. Now Armas wins the ball, at least momentarily, forces Varsia to regroup. Kochow looking on the far side at Smith. Varsia joins the play, and the ball is banged off of Kochow beyond the touchline for a Columbus throw-in. Marking Varsia, and he just fires it on into the near post. Easy pickings for Zach Thornton. You mentioned the situation involving young Bartosz Varsia right around the same time that he was diagnosed with cancer. Varsia's wife was stricken with appendicitis, so it was a very difficult stretch. Now Keller to Marsh, has some space, but he puts it right onto the boot of Ansel Elcock. It'll work out, at least for the moment, for Chicago. Corner kick for the Fire.
The city of Chicago, Soldier Field.
Ambrosio will trot on over.
The U.S. Soccer Federation. Thank you.
He has come on so strong for the Chicago Fire this year. I think originally when the Fire got him, they thought he was a classic post-up striker. But it has turned out he's more comfortable getting the ball out a little more in the midfield and taking on defenders. Once they found that, things started to click for the Fire.
Now Marsh with the header, and Sommer is right there. Great placement for Jurgen Sommer as Jesse Marsh got a good opportunity off the service from Podbrozny.
Darting run from Jesse Marsh.
Novak and Stern John got tangled up. Stern John with the equalizer off of a restart in the 53rd minute after Podbrozny scored on the penalty kick in the 45th minute, or right at the end of the first half. Now Jesse Marsh eludes Smith, plays the ball wide to Richie Kochow inside the area, breaks for the end line. Good challenge by Smith, but Kochow gets it back. Now Marsh with an opportunity. Now that's Josh Wolf and Iribarren. Josh Wolf broke inside, but Ricardo Iribarren denies the cross.
Here's a chance on the head ball by Marsh, but back to that one almost fooled Jurgen Sommer. It looked like he was expecting it to come a little bit quicker and didn't have as much pace as he expected, but was in the right spot.
$18,615 in the house at Soldier Field, and Yeagley heads it out straight off the service from Podbrozny, who can just stay right where he is and try it again.
Oh, Jesse Marsh wide open.
Couldn't settle the ball now. Podbrozny crosses, and it's headed away. Yeagley is there to clear it for Columbus and the crew on the counterattack, and now Marsh drags Williams down. No call from the official, Zach Thornton.
Now here's what I'm wondering from the Columbus standpoint. When Peter Novak was playing midfield, Rob Smith was assigned to him. All right. Now Novak gets put back as a sweeper spot. I wonder if anybody has been still tagged to Peter Novak, because the last chance up the field, he drifted out of his sweeper spot and he had loads of space to come forward through the midfield.
The living room.
Yeagley goes down, but Podbrozny is whistled for the foul. Todd Yeagley was a four-time All-American at 3 different positions.
Just got him a bit. I think Andy Williams with a little foul enhancement. It definitely was a foul. Andy tried to get a card out of that. Zach Gibson into the lineup, replacing Josh Keller for the Fire, but a good foul to take by Jesse March as the counter was starting and the crew going forward with some numbers and pace. Also, Robert Varsia is out of the lineup, and Jason Farrell will join the crew on the field.
Jason Farrell was actually taken by Chicago in the expansion draft, and then returned in the deal that brought Frank Lopez to Chicago. Traffic in front. McBride got a foot on it, but it's cleared away.
Varsia gave the crew some...
Oh, Zach Thornton.
Varsia gave the crew some good work along the wings, and Jason Farrell will give you the same thing, but Jason Moore is more of a left-sided player.
Zach Thornton was on the official Angeles because of the close quarters in which he was forced to work. Brian McBride was on him like, well, cheap suit is probably putting it a little bit strongly, but they were tight. Here's Ibsen, the self-described mercenary. He's a journeyman. Played a little beach soccer. He keeps it alive onto the challenge from Dooley. And finally hammers it out, and that's going to be a throw-in as the ball bangs off of Farrell, but off the touchline instead of the end line.
High fives for the old man. 37-year-old Thomas Dooley going stride for stride with Zach Ibsen. Shut down an attack on the wing.
Now here's Farrell. Tackles Podbrozny. Ibsen not in position to help. Through ball. Intended for Ansel Elcock. He was tied up by Richie Kotschow. And it plays right back to Chicago.
Elcock was busting out on the right side, and Richie Kotschow got just enough of him to break up the play and make it impossible for him to accept the pass.
There was some issue about the placement of this game here in Chicago. Obviously, the home field for one of the contestants. Tom Fitzgerald joked yesterday in training at a location on the north side of Chicago, right next to a construction site with all the earth-moving equipment going loudly. He said, we're simulating the crowd noise for tomorrow night.
As you might imagine, the crew was less than pleased to have to play this at a non-neutral site. But the crowd here certainly responded, and had the day been a bit better, I think we're looking at another 5,000 to 6,000 for this game.
Well, the Fire, as Ibsen takes a look from Armas. Farrell challenges Ibsen, fires with the left foot, swerves it right into Jürgen Sommer. But he had some space.
Not a lot there for Zach Ibsen, but he got a dangerous left foot hooked into Jürgen Sommer. Jason Farrell let him slip away just a bit. Start that Fire attack.
Zach Ibsen used sparingly during the course of the MLS season by Bob Bradley, but this is a guy who was out working out and could probably make an argument that he is the most fit player on the Chicago side. Now Marsh looking for Armas. It's headed away by Yeagley. Raza tried to send Kotschow down the middle at the 18. Now Elcock makes a good run. He's going to try to get around Okaro. Can't do it. Slows it down. Francis Okaro with the stiff challenge. And a throw in for the Crew.
I'm impressed. 80 minutes into this game, and Elcock is busting it down the wing. That was almost a length of the field run.
Now here's Smith. Right back out off the noggin of Okaro, who at 35 years old did well to maintain the challenge of Elcock.
No question. He's playing with a separated shoulder.
Yeah, he ran into Zach Thornton in the MLS Cup on Sunday. Gives away 3 inches and 40 pounds to Thornton.
In a few years.
Now John and Okaro collide. As we get into the final 10 minutes of regulation, things opening up just a little bit.
Coming in hard. Okaro, tell you what, Francis Okaro, Lubas Kubik, Peter Novak, they're going to be, it's been a great season for the Fire, but they're going to be happy when this game is over.
Oh, great tackle by Dooley on Ibsen.
Dooley was looking to sneak forward, and here comes Novak now.
Goes to the middle for Wolf. Gets a step as his mark falls, nearly gets it back, and he does. Here, Ibarra can't control Josh Wolf. Touches it inside the area. And Thomas Dooley gets the advantage of that sequence against Josh Wolf.
Here's the Dooley tackle earlier, and Josh Wolf was looking for something there and didn't get it. This is just a good play by Dooley, but it was top of the D. Look at him slip away from Yeagley. Dooley throws the arms up. I didn't do anything. And that time, Arturo agreed.
We talk about the tradition of a U.S. Open Cup competition. Certainly guys like Dooley, who have played in Europe, guys like O'Caro, the older veterans, the Polish nationals playing for either side. They have a deep respect for what is going on here, and they can help pass that tradition down.
We might get a couple more points.
Rob Smith went high to try to nail the ball down, couldn't control it, throw in for Chicago.
Like I said on the onset of this, the Chicago Fire, you got a superstar that works as hard as Peter Novak does. The guys who are the 19th and 20th player have absolutely no excuse to not put in the same effort. Novak came here looking to win a championship. That was his primary goal from the time he was signed with MLS.
Here's McBride. Corner kick. Well, Peter Novak, the story has come out as the Fire has gone to the final stages of the MLS season. Novak is an internet freak, spends several hours a day on the net, and when Bob Bradley was named the head coach of Chicago, hold the thought, Kochow clears it. Novak did a little studying, said, hey, this is a Princeton guy, he's probably a smart fellow, and he made some inquiries about coming to play for Bob Bradley. Bradley, a good friend, longtime colleague of Bruce Arena. They were together at the University of Virginia. They were together then at DC United the last couple of seasons, and they are agreed that to improve the international game, Yeagley has a chance. He goes to the left foot, and it's blocked by Armas. That'll be a corner kick for the Crew.
I think Todd may have taken one touch too many. He had an opportunity a few yards away, and then his last touch took him into Chris Armas. Got a good left foot on it, and Armas was able to close it down. Another corner kick for the Crew.
Jason Farrell into the air. Zach Thornton punches it out. Knocked back down toward the goal, but Josh Wolf can't get it away cleanly. Iribarren almost got it back at the D. O'Caro disrupts that. Now Wolf plays it to Novak. Novak has some space, and he's got Podbrozny on the wing, but he doesn't count on Mike Clark being there to tackle it away. But Bradley and Arena have talked about the success of the U.S. in international play being dependent upon, among other things, the continued improvement of MLS.
I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, you know, this is the highest level, and you need to be able to play at a high level, obviously internationally. And the guys who have had success on the national team did a lot of work in Europe. They need to play high-level soccer here. That's where MLS is headed.
Elcott. O'Caro is there as Stern John closed at about 20 yards out. Francis O'Caro played at Boston University. Oh, giveaway by Marsh. Here's Andy Williams. And he sizes it up and he fires, and Zach Thornton makes the sure save. Francis O'Caro played at Boston University some years ago for the Secretary General of the U.S. Federation, Hank Steinbrecher. Now here's Wolf. Inside, gains position, tries to cross. Rozoff was streaking into the line, but Summer gets in the way.
Not only is Josh Wolf fast, he's quick, he's explosive into tiny openings, drags that foot and is able to get himself something out of nothing a lot of times for the Fire.
Peter Novak picks Ansel Elcock's pocket. Remember that the referee Angeles will add stoppage time, and we will go beyond what the clock shows, which is something less than 3 minutes remaining in regulation. Marsh to Podbrozny, has a little space as Dooley lays off. Ball is headed out by Clark. Don't forget the U.S. men's national team back in action next Friday, November 6th at 7:30 Pacific. Josh Wolf will be there, and he works on Clark, and he tries to slip around, and he's taken down, and play on, says the referee Angeles. That U.S. men's national team game of friendly against Australia at Spartan Stadium in San Jose. For tickets, the area code is 408-554-8886, or you may call the San Jose Clash at 408-985-GOAL. But for Armas inside the area. Takes a step on Iribarren, tees it up with the left foot, it's blocked. Now Ibsen charges, but Farrell is there. And Williams brings it back for the Crew to Elcock. Gets position on Kochow, keeps it alive. McBride has some space. Williams top of the D, dances a man, that's Brown, he fires, and he goes wide with it. Great sequence for Columbus, great series of touches on the ball, and Williams cannot finish.
Well, Stern John is looking over to his pal Andy Williams and says, what do I got to do? I was wide open. Stern John is the top of your picture over here. The ball goes back to Williams here, and look at how C.J. closed. Wide open on the right side, a good move, but that ball laid on the right side, and Stern John goes straight to goal. And moments earlier, a chance that Andy Williams had, he had an option with Brian McBride and did not elect to take that option either.
Labrojny for Ibsen. Clock shows final minute of regulation. Jesse Marsh. Challenged by Smith. Ibsen gets it back. Smith holds his mark. Now Ibsen to the left foot, bounces it into Summer.
That was close to deja vu of what Ibsen did about 10 minutes ago, except that time he curled it around to the far post. A dangerous left foot from Zach Ibsen. To get one of those balls to skip in like that, tough for the keeper.
2 minutes of injury time as indicated by the fourth official, Ted Kubashu. If we remain tied, then we will go to a pair of 15-minute sudden death overtimes, the golden goal. And if we remain tied after that, it goes down to penalty kicks.
Both of these teams have gone to extra time in this tournament.
Here's Wolf, Iribarren. Clears it away and gets it back to maintain possession for Columbus. McBride.
2-on-1.
2-on-1 for Columbus. Elcock on the far side. He's got Stern John on the near side. Elcock fires and off the side of the net.
Fitzgerald likes it. Great defensive decision by C.J. Brown, who had to peel off and close down Elcock. Forced Elcock to take the shot rather than the striker John. There, C.J. he got some help coming from behind, peels off, cut off the pass to John, and left Thornton just defending the shot of Elcock.
Bob Bradley, Mike Jeffries, and Dennis Hamlet watching from the Chicago sideline. Ibsen from Podbrozhny. Looking to the back, and Jesse Marsh, or no, Richie Kochow can't knock it down. A little too high for him. The chest, and Iribarren clears. Stern John denied by C.J. Brown. Williams is there, but C.J. Brown just a little bit better. Here's Razov. Chips it, and the save is made by Summer. And we will go to sudden death in Chicago to settle the U.S. Open Cup Championship. One aside through regulation. We'll be back for perhaps the golden goal when we come back on Fox Sports Net. 90 minutes of regulation. We couldn't get it settled. Columbus and Chicago tied at 1, so we go to the golden goal Brian Davis and Ed Vicinic, welcome back to Soldier Field in Chicago. We take a look at how things stacked up in regulation.
Well, the two things that jump out at you, corner kicks, 7-6 look awful close to me, but the fouls 22-10. Chicago out fouling Columbus. I thought from the start of this game, the Fire was going to need a gutty performance to get through this with all of the guys that they have out of the lineup and banged up in there. They have done that, and they've done it with trying to slow up the Crew as much as they can and stopping play and getting behind the ball.
Zach Thornton talks of how he has grown this season in terms of his confidence, the opportunity playing full-time to improve his decision-making. Frank Klopas takes the field for Chicago. He is a Chicago-born guy, went to high school here, signed with the old Chicago Sting in the North American Soccer League, straight out of Mather High School in the city of Chicago, went to play in Greece, and has come back to play in his hometown. He has turned into a significant role player for the Fire, and so a pair of fresh legs for Chicago.
Klopas had one of the hottest streaks of any U.S. national team player ever in 1994, scoring 10 goals during that season, and then for that was leading up to the World Cup, and then for some reason he didn't get any World Cup action.
Overtime period is broken up into two 15-minute halves. Next goal wins, and if there is no next goal, we go to penalty kicks.
Barron and the rest of the Crew defenders need to be aware of the Fire counterattack. Been getting some dangerous chances.
Well, Wolf. And the play is started by Wolf, and Razov is taken off the ball as Wolf broke inside the area. And he gets it back. He's looking for help. Three Crew defenders across the line, and now Razov couldn't get full volley on it as the ball bounced high on him, just inside the 18-yard line.
The slide tackle by Thomas Dooley put a ball on a tee for Ante, and he said, holy smoke, look at this. By the time he pulled the trigger, somebody's foot got in the way.
You mentioned that Razov was a non-roster invitee to spring training in Bradenton, Florida, wound up starting the last 24 games for Bob Bradley, plus that 5-game playoff run in which Chicago went undefeated. Too much pace on the ball from Klopas.
It's pretty evident that Razov and Wolf have a good understanding of one another up front. Anticipate the other guy's moves very well.
Ibsen clears it up the line for Wolf. Podbrozhny is pushed by Farrell, so the restart.
Actually, I think that foul came off the ball as Todd Yeagley was holding up Josh Wolf on his run, but it was right in front of the official.
Klopas from Novak. Little combination play, slide tackle by Dooley, takes Novak off the ball. Foul is called.
Novak coming in, and the tackle by Thomas Dooley got the ball, but also caught the legs of Peter Novak.
Restart from about 35 yards out. Novak punches it down. It's cleared. And Williams can't control. Armas inside Klopas. Top of the D to Marsh. Goes to lift it over Summer, but puts it right on his hands.
There was a chance for the Chicago Fire. Jesse Marsh, who, by the way, will be getting married tomorrow, unable to rip that one home. Came from a giveaway. Andy Williams, after collecting that ball out of the air, didn't protect it. The Fire stripping it away.
Yeagley has whistled for the foul on Marsh. So the early play here in overtime is in Chicago's favor.
Fire looking to take as much time off the clock as they can. They'd be happy to go to PKs.
But Brozny, Smith off the head, clears it, and this time Williams gets it away. John making the run. O'Caro has position on him, and Novak also back to help. Now Thornton plays it off his feet and plays it out of bounds. McBride will throw it in for the Crew.
I think Peter Novak just suckered Brian into that throw and gave Stern-John enough space to allow McBride to think it was going to get there, and then just stepped in and said, "Thank you very much."
Yeagley to McBride. McBride keeps it going. He goes down. Play on, says the referee. O'Caro picks it up. Peter Novak 2 years ago voted the top playmaker in the German Bundesliga, playing for 1860 Munich. McBride slow to get up.
Brian looks like he's having some cramp. Yes, he is.
Here's Klopas with a chance. Elcock gets on him. Klopas tries to dance it inside the area. Rob Smith takes him off the ball, and Klopas fouls him.
McBride is cramping up. Came in with some ankle problems, but you can tell by that reaction. Here's Klopas. He gets double teamed there, and then Rob Smith came in and made a good tackle right there, stepping in front and winning the ball.
Clark intercepted by Klopas. Razov to Wolf. The return for Klopas behind him. Frankie tries to keep it alive. It won't go, and so Rob Smith will start his mates the other way.
Andy Williams is getting very frustrated at being held up in the midfield. He got the foul call that time, but he's looking for some more from Annales.
No question about it. Chris Armas had a pair of his shorts.
He doesn't have a yellow pair at home.
Rob Smith has been pretty active tonight for the Crew. He can play in the back. He can play in the midfield. Previously a fixture on the U.S. under-23 team. Elcock tries to leave it for Yeagley. Instead, Podbrozny picks it off. Not enough pace. He was looking for Razov. Dooley. And the Crew can't hold possession. Brian McBride, last week before the final game of the DC United Series, the conference finals, spent a night in the hospital. Here's Wolf. Plays it back to Ibsen. Marsh calls for it on the near side. Podbrozny has space inside the area. Working on Williams. Tries to get a little too fancy, and Andy Williams takes the ball away. You saw a little bit there of the possession game that Chicago can work. You want to talk about teamwork, but Brozny's goal in the MLS Cup, 7 players touched the ball. Coming upfield, 21 touches on the ball. Then before Gutierrez's goal, the deflection off of Novak, 9 players and 22 touches on the ball before it wound up in the net. Without a single DC United player coming in contact with the ball in that sequence. There's Ibsen. For Podbrozny, combination play won't go. Farrell gives it right back to Podbrozny. Zach Ibsen. Marsh calling for the ball. Klopas goes wide to the right side. Jesse Marsh was on the near side screaming for the ball. The ball deflected out by Columbus, and that's going to be a corner kick for Chicago.
Great steal right there, and Frankie Klopas a chance to be the hero as they get it wide. Podbrozny. Ibsen gets it in. Good ball. Watch the touch of the turn, but Eric Barron stepped in just before Frank could rip it.
Podbrozny's restart. The header, Razov. Klopas scores! Frankie Klopas becomes the hometown hero, and the Fire does the double.
opportunity to do a double doesn't come along too often. It is a very rare thing. DC United did it a couple of years ago. Ante Razov got that ball in front. He was unmarked about 10 yards away from goal.
Only 4 times since they began the U.S. Open Cup in 1914 had a team done the double. DC United being the last in 1996. The Chicago Fire becomes number 5 before a delirious hometown crowd at Soldier Field in Chicago. You know that honeymoon is going to be sweeter now for Jesse Marsh.
Watch how wide open Ante Razov is to get on the back of this. There was 5 yards of space. It falls to the foot of Klopas, and he roofs it. That was a great finish by Klopas, who had to get it up over Summer and up and over Andy Williams, who was at the back stick. The Chicago Fire season at Soldier Field started with Frank Klopas scoring a couple of goals, and it ends with Frank Klopas scoring the golden goal.
And the Fire learned to adjust without him, and now Novak center stage as the Chicago Fire hoist the hardware, the 1998 U.S. Open Cup champions, and the Dewar Trophy.
You know what, I don't know if Peter Wilt made adjustments or accommodations for this, but you know what, he's going to have to put a trophy case somewhere in the Chicago Fire office.
Once again,
well, the Dewar Cup is on the field. The Alan Rothenberg Trophy, signifying the MLS champion, is also in the house, and the boys are going to take it for a walk.
Major League Soccer Commissioner, Mr.
And when you talk about the magic that was 1998 for the Chicago Fire, it is only fitting from the Fire's perspective that they get a chance to do the victory lap.
There's a hat for you. Going to put Francis on the front of a car. He's going to be their hood ornament.
Frankie Klopas needed to dish off some of the load. Your Chevrolet game summary: Jerzy Podbrozny on the penalty kick in the 45th minute. Then Stern John off the restart in the 53rd. And then the golden goal for the hometown guy, come home to be the hero, Frank Klopas, in the 99th minute.
Ante Razov gets it in front. The ball falls right to the foot. That was not an easy finish, and Frank found an opening, buried it. U.S. Open Cup champs 1998, the Chicago Fire.
The elation on the Chicago side, and there you have it. As you mentioned, Ed, Frank got the Fire off to the great start in the home opener against Tampa Bay in April. He scores the first and the last goals for this club for the Fire in 1998. For Ed Vicinic and our entire production crew, I'm Brian Davis saying good night from Chicago. You've seen Chicago do the double and win the U.S. Open Cup championship. Good night from Soldier Field in Chicago.